Welcome to The Driven Entrepreneur, where we sit down with visionaries, trailblazers, and entrepreneurs and discover why and how they do what they do. We'll get the backstory, plus plenty of life and business lessons along the way. Here's your host, Matt Brauning.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by my very own NLP practitioner course. I've been teaching neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, for nearly 15 years. It is the most powerful tool for communication on the planet, and it can be yours today. For a very limited time, I'm giving away my entire NLP course workbook for free. Go to nlpwithmatt.com. All the patterns, all the tools, and the techniques of NLP in the complete course workbook, the same one that we use to teach our live certification classes, yours free. nlpwithmatt.com. Get it today. Let's get back to the show. Hey, welcome back to The Driven Entrepreneur. Listen, I hope that you're out there having a good time, as good of a time as possible right now. I hope you're staying safe. I hope that most importantly, you're staying safe, but second most importantly, I hope that you're still focused on growing, learning, taking care of your business, doing all the things that we need to do right now, coming together and being stronger as ever. As usual, of course, I'm still right at this. We are not stopping this Driven Entrepreneur show for anything. And this week, I have a really, really special guest who's someone who's become a very dear friend of mine. You're going to love my guest this week. She's been referred to as the chiropractor to the stars. She's treated numerous celebrities as a professional chiropractor like Lisa Nichols, Osmond, and even the New York City Rockettes. She's also been a paid expert on Judge Judy, and she's been featured all over the media on Fox Charleston, ABC morning shows, Morning Blend in Tucson, Tampa, ABC, CW. She's also a permanent co-host on Voice America's Transformation for Success, the Total Woman Show. She's had a variety of different magazine covers, keynoted women's groups all across the board. She's also a chapter president for the International Association of Women, and doing fundraisers for Save a Child Foundation and Child Rescue. She has, we're going to talk about so much more, but my favorite part about Dr. Aria Soloway is, as a former English teacher, she's also currently a practicing chiropractor, a qualified medical examiner, and she's published 2 best-selling novels for adults, and she's releasing her 3rd book, a children's book called The Surprise Circus, coming out this week. And she's co-written that with her 6-year-old granddaughter. Dr. Carol, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
You know, just cranking along. Again, like I said, as best we can. I'm excited to get in with you because you have been doing, well, first off, normally you do these RV tours. So before we get too deep into the rest of the story, can you tell us a little bit about what your last RV tour was like? Why did you do it? How did you drag your husband along? And tell me about when you released that last book, because I think that RV tour idea was so fun.
Well, actually, I didn't drag him along. He dragged me. He was a driver. We came up with this idea actually 4 years ago with my first book, that wouldn't it be great to speak at different chapters of eWomen, which is an organization that has 500,000, and IAW, which has 1 million women. And so I started connecting chapter presidents, TV stations, and I did get booked the first tour, which was 4 years ago. And then we did another tour 2 years ago and decided, you know what? I have another book, a children's book. Let's go for it. And it took me 6 months to plan the trip, to get all my speaking engagements. And I booked every single thing to the letter. And we were going to we took off in February, and the rest is history.
And that's February of this year. So you were planning how long? A 4-month RV tour?
Yep, February 14th. And I do need to come back to keep my regular job as a qualified medical examiner. So we factored that in. I come back 1 week every 6 weeks. And we had every single day planned in the RV trip from February 14th to July 1st.
Oh my gosh. And then of course, with what's been happening in the world, after a few weeks that gets cut short, and that, I mean, devastating to say the least. And I realize there's so much more going on, but how how have you pivoted coming home and decided, okay, I guess we're not doing this book tour. I guess we're not doing everything that we had planned in the speaking. How are you, and what is kind of the current plan and the current, I don't know, the feeling around the home right now?
Oh, the feeling around the home is fabulous because we had 4 months of supplies in our RV in preparation for the trip. So as far as what I went ahead. I've already keynoted via Skype or whatever, Zoom,
Sure.
and it went beautifully. In Miami already. And we've been mostly keeping up with a lot of the keynoting via Zoom. And I'm spending all of my efforts really reaching out to people, telling them the book will be out April 7th. And, in this horrible time of, actually, the foreword that Les Brown wrote was amazing. He wrote it, of course, several months ago. And one of the lines is, don't think about what you can't do, or don't tell your children what they can't do. Think about what they can do. And I mean, that is so true for now.
That's absolutely beautiful, and I love that, this. So I want to talk about this book too, but first, your career is a very interesting career. So you've been, of course, kind of gaining the fame, so to speak, or and the credibility, and really built a business around chiropractic. How old were you when you got into chiropractic, and what drew you to that as a career initially?
Oh, wow. You won't believe this story.
I
Okay.
can't wait to hear.
I was an English teacher for years. And then we went off to Mexico. My former husband became a medical doctor, and I decided I wanted to do something. So I applied to NYU and Columbia for physical therapy. I got into Columbia, and I was interviewed at NYU, and the woman sat across from me and said to me, I won't accept you. And by the way, NYU was my alma mater. I won't accept you because you have 3 children at home and you can't be serious.
No. When was
Yes.
this? The 1800s?
Close.
What is
It
going on?
was, is that amazing?
Wow.
And I know, that's unbelievable. It was 1980, actually, and 79. And so there was a chiropractic school down the street. And I wanted to be a physical therapist, but I couldn't go to Columbia, 3 subways and leave my children. But I could have done NYU because that was only 1 subway or the railroad. And I decided, okay, I'll find out about this chiropractic thing. I can do physical therapy. I can, get people to feel better, move. And that's how I became a chiropractor.
And you obviously soared and excelled in chiropractic, and that's fun to see. Talk about a second wind, and I really love some of the stories that come out in the shows about these entrepreneurs. And I would certainly consider you an entrepreneur, going from English teacher to chiropractor, and then the idea from going from chiropractor to medical examiner. We've talked about this a little bit just privately, in conversations we've had. Was this something that kind of came to you, and someone said, "Hey, could you help us with this or help us with that?" Or is that something that you really seeked, said, I want to get this third chapter in my life? Tell me about adding the medical examiner aspect in your career.
Well, first, before that, building my chiropractic practice, I had nothing in my name. Well, that's not true. I had a $10,000 student loan. That was all mine.
Hey, that's something.
And, yeah, that's something. And I built the practice from nothing. So I became a business person, and I'd never been in business before. And I built it by sleeping in the office and going to network groups morning, noon, and night, and so that was a career in the interim. And then I got into, I started, we had to take relicensing classes every year. And I really liked the medical legal aspect. So I went back to school and became a qualified medical examiner, which is a designation by the state of California and other states, of course. And I started examining the patients in addition to my practice, by the way.
So you're still running a successful chiropractic practice. And what kinds of patients are you seeing for medical examiner? And the follow-up question to that, I guess, is this your own kind of secondary practice as a consultant, or were you under the employ of a company or a government that was doing this?
Well, the state of California sends out the panels when attorneys or people apply to be rated after they've had an industrial injury. So the state sends it out, but I work through various companies. My son decided to go to Brandeis, and my practice wasn't going to support that. So I took another job for a company as a qualified medical examiner. So that's how I started. It was to support Brandeis or my son going to Brandeis. So I built it up and became known, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. So now you're running both shows, so to speak. And is this where I want to ask a little bit about the Judge Judy thing? I think I've never met someone who's been part of Judge Judy. Did they reach out to you? Was that something you were wanting to get some publicity for what you were doing? How did that fall into place? And what was that like? Did you go on set, or did you get to meet Judy? How, tell me anything you can, any stories about kind of that little trip.
Oh, sure. As a qualified medical examiner, I was a one of the speakers for relicensing classes. I was asked to be a speaker. And someone who heard me speak said, a friend of mine, is one of the producers on Judge Judy, and she's looking for an expert to come on. Will you do it? And I said, sure. I mean, that was how I didn't send out anything. And they sent me the chart of the patient that there was a dispute between the patient and the chiropractor. And they asked me if I would be an expert. And I said, sure. And they do, by the way, they do pay very minimally, but they pay $500 to be an expert. So I did do that. I read everything, and I asked for the x-rays, and they told me, oh, we'll give it to you when you appear, or something like that. And they never gave me them. And when I got on the show, and yes, I did get on the show, and it was televised, obviously, in their studio. And of course, someone yelled at me and said, don't you know you're not supposed to wear a white shirt? Well, no, I don't know. Nobody gave me any information. So don't wear white shirts when you're on TV. And
don't wear white shirts. It washes you out, but no one teaches you that.
No, I didn't know. I was spending all my time researching the state law for prepaid, which was the issue was someone had prepaid the chiropractor and then wanted her money back.
So you were too busy actually doing your job.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, and so you get on there and they yell at you, then what happens?
And no, they didn't. That was in the studio. And I didn't have any other clothes, so it was too bad. And then Judge Judy actually yelled at me on the set and said, how could you be an expert if you didn't look at the x-rays?
Okay.
They didn't give me the x-rays is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Is that cool? How amazing is that?
Wow. That's fun. And did you get to meet Judy?
Oh, well, I was there. She was questioning me.
And how so on camera, off camera, just last question on this, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Is she the same Judge Judy on camera, off camera? Is she kind of, that that hardened attitude, or was she like, camera switches off and she's messing around, or what was the personality like? What was your interaction?
Oh, you don't have any interaction with her.
None. Okay.
Zero.
But she was questioning you.
I mean, off stage.
Gotcha.
Off stage,
okay.
You have no interaction. You're not even in makeup. I mean, you're nothing, in the show. But on stage, you're questioned.
I see. Okay. That makes sense. Well, that's fun times. I mean, just the thought of what, things you can do when you decide to be an expert in your field, and when you stand out as an icon in your field. And you've done that in chiropractic, you've done that in medical examining, and now the most shocking turn of events, but not really, if we know you used to be an English teacher, is now standing out as an icon, as an author. You have written 2 books, and your third one's coming out, The Surprise Circus, your first kids book, which is really exciting. But first I want to ask you about your last book. Well, you had Sex Happens, and then you had Gracies Gone, which I can't wait to talk about Gracies Gone, because I think there's a very, very charming officer of the law that is featured in Gracies Gone that you can find out about. I think it was named after someone I know. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair, yeah, and with piercing blue eyes.
So Carol and I are good friends, and so she's looking for characters, and out of the blue, she says, "Well, did you ask me, or did you just say, hey, check it out?" Because I was happy either way. I don't remember how it went down, but how, you put some
I
friends
asked.
and
I asked everybody.
You put some people into your book. So there's an Officer Brauning with piercing blue eyes in Gracies Gone. Tell me just briefly about the Sex Happens book. Tell me about Gracies Gone. How are they the same? How are they different? And kind of why did you want to write each one of those before we get to the newest one?
Sure. Sex Happens is about a woman who loses custody of her children. And in the book, she reclaims herself after she has lost everything. Husband, losing custody of children is just, and it wasn't, she's portrayed as an unfit mother, but that's not the truth. It's sort of like, if you know the word gaslighting, where someone else changes events.
Sure.
And she is made to look even weaker than she is. And through her group, her book club, really, her close friends, and her own strength, she does finally emerge. And there's, her former husband hires somebody to discredit her, and she has this really amazing sexual relationship with him. What do I say? It's portrays my life, because I did lose custody of my children, but the sex scenes are really great. So it's it's not autobiographical. But no, that's not true. Though my husband's in the other room. He's amazing. My current. But
so it's based loosely on your life.
Loosely on my life. And the amazing thing, when I keynoted, women have come up to me and told me, this story gave them hope, and just amazing things that have come of that. It's really been fabulous to see. But what I want to say is, after I wrote it, and this gives me goose pimples to today. After I wrote it, a man came into my chiropractic office. He looked exactly like the main character, had the same name. I changed the name from Dr. Rosen to Dr. Rose, and did exactly what the main character did, even trying to hire a hit person to take me out of my car and drop me off in Compton with no purse, no money, and nothing, for $5,000, because he didn't want to pay for my practice after he bought it.
Oh my gosh. So
he did insurance fraud, which was in my book, and he was maybe cocaine. I'm not going to say, but yes.
Now coming back, so this is all from Sex Happens.
It was exactly what was in my book. but he didn't marry someone. He left his wife, didn't marry Linda. He married Eliza. And it was exactly in my book.
Wow. So if you're interested in that, it's I don't know how you'd classify that. I mean, it's a novel. It's not exactly certainly a graphic novel or a romantic novel. It's almost an autobiography, but not completely. It's a very fascinating story. And I really like the perspective of how you put that out. So check out Sex Happens. And then Gracie's Gone. What was the impetus for you, that initial motivation of, you know what, I want to write a second book? And this is a little more of a thriller kind of book, would you say?
Well, Gracie was this, okay, I had all these characters and I didn't know what to do with them. So I decided, okay, I'll put them in another book. And Gracie was the flower girl from Sex Happens.
Wow.
At the end of Sex Happens, there's a wedding, and Gracie happens to be the flower girl at that wedding. So fast forward, Alex, my main character, who's not me, but she happens to be a chiropractor, because what else was I going to have her do in the day? And she marries, and Gracie is her stepdaughter. And every parent's worst nightmare, you're in the mall and suddenly you can't find your child. You know that feeling.
Oh, I've had it for a few seconds here and there, and it is the worst.
It is crazy. Well, that's what happens. And then, you find out who took her, what happened. And I didn't want anything horrible to happen to her, though. That was my absolute, stake in the ground. Nothing was going to happen to her, no matter what it was going to do for the story.
Hey, I as a parent, I do appreciate that, because I like some thriller, but I also, life isn't always a happy ending, but I certainly like my stories to have victory in the end. So I appreciate you. Kind of spoiler alert on that, but that's Gracie's Gone. And along the way, you have lots of colorful characters, of course, like Officer Brauning and some other ones. Our friend Craig Duswalt's in it as well, isn't he?
Oh, of course. Yes. Another officer.
Oh, it was Officer Duswalt. That's right. Yeah. So, hey, shout out to Craig. If you're listening, buddy, shout out to Craig Duswalt and his Rock Your Life events and masterminds. Really, really good dude. And that's, of course, how we met and connected in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. On a long car ride home from LA.
That's right. Yeah. We went together and did a TV show with Dean Cain, formerly Superman, and Lois and Clark. And we sat in the car all the way up and all the way back. And just, I don't know, at that moment, Carol, I was like, you're the one for me. I love this woman so much. You're just amazing. I knew you'd be a dear friend for a long time. When you get into the next book, did you have any downtime, or did you go, all right, for now I'm an author, so I'm going book to book to book? Downtime, or did you jump right in?
Which book are you talking about?
Going from Gracie's Gone to the Surprise Circus, your newest book.
Oh, that just came organically. I mean, no, I had no thought of being a children's writer. And it just, I was sitting in the backyard with one of my grandchildren, my granddaughter, who was 5 at the time, actually. And we started talking about books and the circus, and it just organically grew into this. What would happen if the circus didn't come to your town, and then the ringmaster started sending you packages? Like, one week there's the strongman. What would he do? And her imagination went, he would lift all the furniture even when we're on it. And what if the next week the circus ringmaster sent you a juggler? What would he do? Well, of course, he would throw the baby sister up in the air. And you know what the magician's going to do? Yep. Make that sister disappear. But I started, after that, I started analyzing, and like Dr. Seuss, why he was so popular. By the way, he wasn't a real doctor like I am. That was an honorary degree. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's why I'm going as Dr. Carol, and because that's real. And so anyway, his books have a moral, like no one is youer than you. So I decided, gosh, I want to write a children's book, not just a fun story about the circus, but one that will make children learn something or feel. And I added, she decided, Aria, who's the main character, is a little nervous about, she's got all these people in her backyard, the juggler, the clowns who are honking horns in waking her sister up. And she wants to be the ringmaster, but she doesn't know if she can do it. And I had her friend who, I don't know if you know this, her friend is Les Brown's grandson.
Oh, okay.
Honor, who I know, who's adorable. And he starts telling her, because I needed, somebody to tell her something, what are you good at? And I'll read it to you. What can you do? And she thought about what she was great at, because Les Brown says you have to find your greatness, right?
Of course.
And she knows her bus driver told her she was the best bus buddy, and her teacher told her she was smart, and her best friend Sarah told her she was a great friend, and her daddy told her she was beautiful, and her mommy told her she was the light of her life. And Aria knew she was the best big sister in the world. So we have to find what it is that we're great at. And, that's what I wanted children to recognize. There's something that you are great at.
And that's so beautiful. Now, and I believe that thoroughly, Dr. Carol. Every child has something they're great at, sometimes more things and less things than someone else. It doesn't matter, but we all have unique gifts that have been put inside us and that we have. And I really love that positive message. So the book is called The Surprise Circus. It's available for pre-order now on Amazon, and we'll have a link in the show notes if you're listening to this on demand, of course. And the book goes live as of April 7th. Is that right?
That's right. And I just want to say in another one of the messages, which is Les Brown, who wrote the foreword, but he's in the book too. And he tells people you got to be hungry, right?
You got to be hungry.
You got to be hungry. And the little girl Aria says, well, we can sell popcorn and people will buy it. And the little friend Honor says, that's not what hungry means.
Oh,
hungry means when you really, really want something, you have to be willing to work as hard as possible in order to get it.
Very
that's
good.
The message.
And that's beautiful, Carol. That's beautiful. As we wind down here, last couple questions. What was it like to write with a 6-year-old co-author? Because I think that's a very interesting experience. And would you consider yourself the co-author or the 6-year-old the co-author?
I would consider us equal co-authors because it was her imagination and my kind of messaging. So not my messaging, but taking a fabulous message to the world. And then, I don't know if you even know this, we have a 15-year-old who illustrated it.
I do know that, yes. And the 6-year-old is your granddaughter.
Yes.
And the 15-year-old is the daughter of one of your International Association of Women chapter members, correct?
Correct.
So what's the experience like writing with a 6-year-old? How do you do that? Did you guys sit down together one-on-one? Did you get on the phone? Did she start sketching out ideas? Did you interview her and then write some things down and say, hey, honey, what do you think about this? Tell me a little bit about that. What was that experience like actually collaborating and writing a real book with a 6-year-old kid?
It was magical. That's the word. We were sitting in the backyard and we just started fooling around with it. And within an hour, we came up with the whole story.
Oh my gosh.
And
then who wrote it down? How did that happen?
Oh, well, what does my son say? This is going to be the first illiterate person to write a book. She doesn't know how to write. Well, yeah, thanks. Well, she was 5 then. So it was last summer that we started this. And I wrote it and then sent it to her father to proof it, who really did a beautiful job and added some clever things. And then I started telling the illustrator about it, and she drew exactly what was in my mind.
Wow.
It was amazing. We did not do more than 1 or 2 pictures corrected. Everything came out perfect.
And I'll tell you what, go check this out. It's on Amazon right now in pre-order, or if you're hearing this after April 7th, of course, it's available live. But the book is really beautiful. It's the Prize Circus, written by, I don't know how to say, written by a 3-time author, medical examiner, always reinventing herself, amazing woman, plus her 6-year-old granddaughter and a 15-year-old entrepreneur daughter as the illustrator. It's an incredible book. It's an incredible story. It really is uplifting. The foreword is by Les Brown himself. Les is in the book. You can't, miss that. And the pictures are gorgeous. The illustrations are amazing. So I really encourage you to check this out and order the book now. I think you have special launch pricing. I don't know how long that's going to stay in. Can they get that right directly on Amazon?
Yes, it's 99 cents for the Kindle right now.
Oh my gosh.
It already became a #1 new release, and it isn't even out yet.
That's the power of a good story mixed with a great, because your book has a great story and a great backstory. Carol, as I let you go here, we know where to obviously get that. How, if people want to connect with you outside of just getting the Surprise Circus as it comes out, what's the best way to stay connected with you?
Either through Facebook, and I do believe you have that link too. And I'm on Facebook, Carol Soloway, and also my Gmail would be great. I would love to hear comments, and it's Dr. Carol, Dr. rather, carolsoloway.com. I'm sorry, Dr. Carol Soloway at Gmail. Thank you. Yeah, I do have a website.
Dr. Carol Soloway at gmail.com. Hey, that's cool. I haven't had a guest or an expert or an author say, just email me, let me know what you think. But do email me, let me know what you think about the book, and go check out the Surprise Circus right now. Dr. Carol, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure, and let's do it again soon.
You got it. Thank you so much. Take care, Matt.
All right, guys, that's the show for this week. Thanks for listening in, and I hope you enjoyed my time with Dr. Carol Soloway. What an absolute gem. And make sure you check out her new book, The Surprise Circus, co-written with her 6-year-old granddaughter and illustrated by a 15-year-old daughter of an entrepreneur. What a cool story. So it's a great story and a great backstory. Until next time, stay driven. I think that is our new catchphrase. Let's do it. Stay driven. Get out there and crush it. Or I guess stay in for the foreseeable time, but crush it from home. I'll see you next week.